Hello, and welcome to today's forum. The League of Women Voters of Sacramento County and Metro Cable Channel 14 are pleased to bring you this forum featuring candidates running for Sacramento Mayor on the June 5th primary election. My name is Tricia Erhammer. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters of Sacramento County and moderator of today's forum. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization made up of both men and women that encourages active and informed participation of citizens in government at all levels. The League does not support or oppose any candidate or political party. Rather, the League provides information and moderates forums such as today's in the hope that this will help you, the voter, understand candidates and issues in order to cast an informed ballot. The format of today's forum will be as follows. Each candidate will offer a 1-minute opening. Next, the candidate will respond to questions from our panel with a 1-minute limit. The questions have been submitted by our panelists and reviewed by the members of the League of Women Voters. Finally, each candidate will conclude with a 1-minute closing. We will now move to today's forum featuring candidates running for Mayor of Sacramento. To my far right, Leonard Padilla. To my near right, Jonathan Ruers. And to my left, a write-in candidate who did qualify for the ballot, Edgar Hilbert Garcia. Also running for mayor, but not with us today, Richard Jones and Kevin Johnson. Also with us today are our panelists asking questions. Foon Rhee from the Sacramento Bee, Cosmo Garvin from News and Review, Pia Lopez from the Sacramento Bee, and Melissa Corker from the Sacramento Press, an online publication. Thank you for giving your time and your expertise to this forum today. Now we are ready to begin with opening statements. The candidates have drawn straws for the order of the opening statements. Leonard Padilla, please.
Thank you. It wasn't straws that got me here to first, it was pulling the ace out of the deck. My name is Leonard Padilla, and yes, this is the 5th time I've run for mayor. Probably the most important time out of all 5 is the fact that we had a financial dilemma going on, which is now basically, I think, been done away with. The financing of the arena by practically bankrupting the city of Sacramento was a bad idea from the start. It continues to be a bad idea, and it will never be a good idea. If a situation like the arena was such a good financial risk, you'd have multimillionaires and billionaires lined up 3 deep at the railroad yards. I have not seen that happen. I've only seen people that are wanting to make money off of the city of Sacramento and do it in an unmannerly way. It's ridiculous. That's why I'm here this time, to make sure it went away and it stays away. Thank you.
Thank you. Jonathan Ruers.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the League for setting up this forum, and I'd like to thank the panelists today for asking us which I hope will be very challenging questions. My name is Jonathan Rewers, and this is the first time that I'm running for mayor of Sacramento for a very simple reason. When you have an incumbent in office, you ask yourself, is the city better off 4 years later? Is that person in office actually providing the services and moving forward with what they promised? And I've talked with a lot of neighborhood leaders here in the city of Sacramento, and I've walked the streets of the city of Sacramento, and people aren't happy. They don't understand where things are going. They don't understand where we're going in the next 4 years and how we got into the situation we did. I'm walking the streets of Sacramento. I have a plan to actually solve our problems. I actually have experience to be able to get things done, and that's why I'm here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Edgar Hilbert Garcia.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, the LIB Women Voters of Sacramento, to invite us here. Thank you, Comcast. Thank you, the panel. Thank you, you there at home watching this. I'm a write-in candidate. That means that you had to go all the way and write my name to vote for me. I'm a 46-year-old man, married, wonderful wife, 3 children. I live in Sacramento for 10 years. I've been an activist, fighting against crime, and I always think that everybody deserves a living wage. Now I have 30 seconds left, and I had to, that interrupt my thoughts, I'm sorry. As I say, I'm a tax preparer. I'm here. Do you have another option, an extra option? And you had to go all the way. You had to write my name. Thank you on Channel 3 for being here. And Edgar Hilbert Garcia, remember.
Thank you. We will now move to the question and answer portion of this forum. Foon, will you please ask the first question first of Leonard Padilla?
Sure, thank you. So obviously the man whose job that you want to take away, Mayor Johnson, isn't here with us today, but I was wondering if you could tell us what the best thing he's done as mayor has been and what the worst thing he's done as mayor.
Well, I can't simply sit here and say that he's done the best thing, because he's occupied his whole time with attempting to finance an arena for the NBA. The best and the worst are the same thing. He's occupied his whole tenure in office with attempting to, as I say, finance an arena. I'm not saying that an arena is a bad deal, but it's a private enterprise, it's a private business. Let that go and seek its own level, much like water does. He hasn't done anything that I can see for the community. Public safety is still less cops. The pools are still closed, even though a grocery store now has come along and decided that they were going to finance it. And he certainly spent a lot more than $680,000 with individuals telling him, oh, this is a good deal, the arena's a good deal, and all that. And all the shucking and jiving that went on in New York was ridiculous. And then they held up the denial of the deal until after people could sign up for the mayor's race. That is practically criminal.
Thank you. Jonathan?
I'd like to say the mayor, when it came to the best thing he could have done, was actually focused for a period of time on the issues in the city of Sacramento regarding homeless, and actually attempting to try to address the issues of homelessness we have here in the city of Sacramento. We have a lot of people out of work. A lot of people I've spoken to tend to tell me that it's a lot of people who are in our building trades who were part of the development boom that happened here in the city of Sacramento and now are out of work. So we have to find ways to help get those people employed and actually try to attempt to deal with the issue of homelessness here in the city of Sacramento. The worst thing I think the mayor could have done over his 4 years is he has a tendency of having these great ideas and being very passionate, but not making a fair pitch and a public pitch to the residents of the city of Sacramento, not making the case as to why it's always the best thing to move forward. The arena is certainly an issue of that, where you created such a level of passion against it that the plan ultimately failed one way or the other. And the Strong Mayor Initiative, again, not making the case to the public why we actually needed to do that. So best and worst.
Thank you. Edgar?
His best thing, his passion. His worst thing, he don't talk to us. He don't listen to us.
Thank you. Cosmo, will you please direct the next question first to Jonathan?
Sure. Jonathan, I'm just going to piggyback on Foon's question a little bit. Obviously, the current mayor is not here. We've all been curious about why that is. I got a statement from his campaign person that says, quote, "Since there is no viable candidate who has spent any money or is running a campaign against the mayor, it is our decision not to engage in any debates." So the mayor's campaign says that you guys are not viable candidates. Are they wrong about that? And if so, why?
To me, a viable candidate is somebody who actually has a plan to move the city forward, has qualified to be on the ballot, and has the support of the people within the city of Sacramento, which I think I do. I've been walking door to door in this city, and every time I talk to people and I explain my plan and I explain my background, they're willing to vote for me. I think there's a huge majority in this city that actually does not want to see Kevin Johnson reelected, and I hope they come out and vote for me on June 5th. With regard to his participation in this forum and neighborhood forums and actually speaking to the public, as Edgar has brought up, I think it's unfortunate, and it's, as I said, a continuing pattern of the mayor. I think he's an extremely passionate person, but I don't think he understands what the office of mayor here in the city of Sacramento is, and it's to be a representative of the public, to sit on the city council, to set a positive vision for this city, and make the case to the council and the city and the public as to why it's the best thing to move this city forward, and I think he's failed at doing that.
Thank you. Edgar?
I think he's wrong. I'm older than 18 years old. I'm registered voter, and I am American. Anyone without qualifications could be run for mayor.
Thank you. Leonard?
Well, with the passion that I have sometimes towards ignorance and wishing it wasn't around in city government, I get carried away. But to hear something like that come out of Maviglio's brain, who I consider to be a semi-intelligent person, is ridiculous. A warm body with a pulse would be viable in this election. 80% of the people in this city are disgusted with Kevin and his cronies. They've hijacked every dollar they can for their personal reasons and their personal likes. And it's upsetting to have, like I say, Maviglio come up with a statement like that. I've always thought he was a lot more intelligent than that.
Thank you. Pia, would you please direct the next question first to Edgar?
Edgar, the arena is just a small part of proposals for the rail yards downtown, which is a 240-acre site. Can you talk a little bit about what your vision would be for the historic central shops and the transportation hub and the rest of the site?
Well, that is kind of hard and easy question, because I would like to see something like San Antonio close by there. Of course, I would like to see the sport complex, and I would like to see more green areas. I mean, one characteristic of Sacramento, I'm sorry, I was looking away, is the beautiful weather that we have. Well, sometimes too hot, sometimes too cold, but it's beautiful still, and green. So definitely, I will add something that is come from nature. We had tons of water. Sometimes we chip away, but we had to use it. Thank you.
Thank you. Leonard?
Those 240 acres have been there for a long time. I've always been of the opinion that in this country, if there's a good deal, somebody's going to rush in there. And as I said before, I don't see a bunch of multimillionaires lined up to do anything. But in its own time, it will be developed. I just don't believe that the city should turn its coffers over to individuals, especially friends of the mayor, people that pat him on the back, his group of 60, his group of 25, empty the coffers of the city to where we have no swimming pools open, the libraries are closing, the community centers are closing, law enforcement is getting cut back. To what end? To what end? So that somebody can say, I did this or I did that? No. If it's a good deal, let the investors put the money together, let them build it. Sure, I have said, and I repeat again, when I'm elected mayor, I intend to put him in charge of a committee to do whatever he wants to do out there, but no financing from the city, no sale of city assets and things of that nature, none.
Thank you. Jonathan?
When I'm elected mayor, I'd like to make the rail yards actually happen. And I think I have the experience and the background to actually do that. I'm a professional planner, so I know all about land use, and I tend to think that the rail yards plan, as we've done over the past 10 years, probably focuses a little bit too much on residential development and not enough on commercial and retail development within the area, kind of growing our downtown. I work in transportation. I manage a $3 billion budget, and I can tell you the intermodal station is critical to moving this city forward, to having transportation access to jobs, and continuing not only to grow Sacramento as the job hub of our region, but also providing affordable housing and a good quality of life for residents of the greater area of Northern California. With regard to just kind of getting it done and how do we do that, I think we do need to take a look at our development fee structures within the city. We have made ourselves reliant on development in the past 10 years, and I think we need to relook at the structures of how we charge developers, especially in infill sites where we really need somebody to take a risk on this city. So,
Thank you. Melissa, would you please ask the next question first of Leonard?
Thank you. I understand you have a very strong opinion about the arena, but I'm going to ask you all to set that aside for just a moment and assuming, in addition, that there's no major city catastrophe between now and the time you're sworn in, what will you see as your #1 priority when you get into office?
The #1 priority has to be public safety. Right now, we have a situation where law enforcement is being cut back drastically. What I'd like to see is a metropolitan law enforcement agency joining the city and the county, and with savings by cutting out duplication at the top, retaining a lot of the law enforcement officers that are being talked about being cut loose. Clark County and Nevada went through the same situation, and they joined their law enforcement and crime prevention into one unit. It eliminates one position at the top. You either have a chief or you have a sheriff. It eliminates a bunch of captains and lieutenants and commanders at the top. So by not having that duplication, you can afford more law enforcement on the streets. That would be my #1 priority. #2 would be the kids that don't have a situation right now that they're comfortable with. They don't have libraries open, they don't have pools open, and they certainly don't have community centers open. We have to get these things going, and it is more important to serve 50,000 kids out there in the summer than it is to help 12 people bounce a basketball.
Jonathan?
Leonard expresses what a lot of our residents are talking about in the city. How do we improve public safety and how do we pay for those things? And if it were the first thing I were going to do when I got into office, it's re-looking at how the city of Sacramento provides its services to the public. I think Leonard brings up a very good point. You know, how have we structured the city and where is our money going? I don't think it's responsible for us, if we're elected officials or even public officials, to go to the public and make a case that we need more money. We need to raise your utility rate fees. We might need to talk about a sales tax increase. We might need to talk about a property tax increase, unless we can prove that we've used those public funds to the best of the government's ability. And I've worked in city government. I worked for the city of Sacramento for 10 years, and I think we do have ability and we do have funds within the city that we can redirect towards priorities that our public has, public safety absolutely being one of them. But the honest truth that the public needs to understand is there isn't enough money. There isn't enough money for everything that we want to do.
Thank you. Edgar?
Yeah, welcome to the people that just came in. My name is Edgar Hilbert Garcia. Jobs, safety, education, and health. We, the people, we are the more important thing in this city, and I think in the country and on the whole world. About jobs, I have a plan with 6 initiatives to retain and expand local business, to encourage the formation of new business, to attract outside business and resources, to plug the leaks in the local economy, and to market the community. You can find this in my webpage. Safety, I believe the important part is prevention. It's a quote to say, in matters of justice and the rule of law, an ounce of prevention is worth significantly more than a pound of cure. Prevention is the first imperative justice that we need. Police can do no things by themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next question. Foon, if you will please direct it first to Jonathan.
Sure, thanks. So several of you have mentioned the budget cuts the city has gone through. The city manager is proposing to avoid more budget cuts this time to require public safety workers and other city employees to pay more into their own retirement accounts. Do you support that? And also, what do you think the mayor's role should be in collective bargaining?
Thank you for the question. I actually do. I have been a public employee for 13 years, and next year I will be paying more money for my benefits and for my retirement. I think in times of economic hardship that public employees should be giving back, because that's why we got into the business we got into in the first place. The city manager's budget, unfortunately, didn't follow the process that we would normally have for a city budget. I think it's blind to the impacts that that budget will actually have on the public. It's just targeted towards certain labor unions, and it's blind to, we can't lose 45 police officers. That just doesn't make sense. I don't think we can afford to lose more park maintenance workers, to be very honest with the conditions of our parks. So the mayor's role overall is to set that policy goal, and I think it's absolutely appropriate to talk to the labor unions and try to facilitate a discussion between the administration, getting the support of council members, and talking with the labor unions about how your support might help move and solve the actual problems.
Thank you. Edgar?
I think the first we need to see why we have a short revenue. Second, I believe the negotiating with all the parts is important. I hear when I'm outside with the community, the Mayor Serna make an administration with less money than we had before, and everything was okay. So I'm not gonna reinvent the wheel or something like that. I'm just gonna pay more attention in the priorities. Once again, I repeat, the priorities is us, the people of the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Leonard?
Well, I think one of the problems is like when you let a dog go into the chicken coop and he starts eating eggs, pretty hard to break him of that habit down the road. And one of the things that we've done is we've gotten people to thinking, we've got so much money, well, we'll pay for your retirement and you can retire at age 50. And then all of a sudden, the money's not there. The expenses are, but the money's not there. And we're running around as a city looking for, what do? Well, what you do is you simply quit doing that. You just stop contributing to the pension funds, and you stop overpaying people, and you start cutting back from 4 to 3 people, and you start employing people that you need to do the job, not people that you don't need. It's that simple. And if it looks bad and it's not politically correct, well, you have to live with that as a public official. And if you're thinking more of being reelected than you are of being a caretaker of the city of Sacramento and its 500,000 citizens, then maybe you shouldn't be the mayor.
Thank you. Cosmo, would you please direct the next question first to Edgar?
Okay. Edgar, the City Council may place a measure on the November ballot that would create an elected charter commission to review the city charter and perhaps to recommend some changes to the structure of city government. Where do you stand on this issue? Do you support an elected charter commission? Are there any charter reforms that you think are necessary?
Well, it is true that our leaders and the system of the government has some problems, but I will need to stop and review before I do anything. Maybe it's the people that is there. Maybe it's not the system. So I can't say yes or no at this point. I will need to go through. Will be unfair to take a side at this moment. I believe that something needs to be done. Definitely. Thank you.
Thank you. Leonard?
I'm not so sure that the Charter Commission is just not another political boondoggle. I'm not so sure that it's just not another group of people that will add expenses to the city of Sacramento when we don't need additional expenses. I believe that if they really were interested in redefining the charter or changing the charter, the city council certainly has enough manpower and people working in the city hall to review it themselves. To bring in another political body, to me, seems like duplicating what's already there. Obviously, there's going to be political emphasis on certain people being on the commission and certain people's thinking getting them there. I'm not in favor of that at this time at all.
Thank you. Jonathan?
So with regard to charter reform, I think this is another case of somebody needs to diagnose the problem before we actually prescribe a solution to anything. Walking the streets of Sacramento, I don't think anybody really cares about charter reform, and they don't understand what changing the charter will actually do to improve services on the street for them, and how charter reform will take care of our city budget problems, or how charter reform will improve their property values or make our streets safer. So I'm not in support of moving forward with the Charter Commission. The other thing is, I've noticed in the past 4 years especially, and I've talked with a lot of people about this, how the there's a lot of concern about the city council and how they've been doing business. And I've noticed there's this continuous pattern for kind of controversial issues to be passed on to commissions. Charter reform, for example, utility fee increases as another example, and even redistricting. And we kind of saw how that ended up. In my years working with the city of Sacramento, the council took those issues on, and there was a fair debate in public. And I think we need to go back to doing business that way and save our taxpayers some dollars and staff time.
Thank you. Pia, would you please direct the next question first to Leonard?
Leonard, historically, or at least the last 2 decades, Sacramento has relied on state government and construction jobs. If you're elected mayor, what would you do to try and diversify the economy, and what could the city of Sacramento do to diversify the economy?
If you look across the country, that is basically a problem of most capital cities. They begin to rely on their government at the state level to provide the income for the people at the city level. There are several things that you can do, and some people, when I've mentioned it to them, they look at me like, what are you talking about? Now, the parking people in Sacramento will ticket you if you park at a meter, and they may bring in a lot of money. It's $10 million that comes into the city. It's not big in part of the overall solution. But if you were to just prohibit the people with phony disabled stickers from parking at these meters and tying up those meters all day long, you're talking about several $1 million there if they had to pay for their own parking and not take and be abusive of those stickers that most of them, 95% of them, are phony. On the other hand, there's other things that you can do. You can pitch universities to locate. Instead of subsidizing the mall down here on K Street, pitch universities to locate there. They bring in students, students spend money.
Thank you. Jonathan?
So Pia brought up the issue of the decade, which is what I like to talk about. And I actually have thought about this. Professional planner, person who's worked in city government, chair of your Parks and Recreation Commission. So how do we move Sacramento forward, and how do we do that? And I have 5 things we need to do. First, we do need to stabilize our property values here in the city of Sacramento, because as property values decline in this city, the general fund declines and it impacts all of you. We have to stop this spiral. And that means we do have to reinvest in our neighborhoods and look to city efficiencies within the budget to make that happen. Second, we have to lower development impact fees and change our development impact fee base to spark development, because we have been reliant on construction jobs and we have to bring those back in. But as we construct our new city and Delta Shores and the rail yards, we need to have different types of amenities and look to bringing in different types of populations, so then when new companies and new industries want to move here, the workforce they're looking for lives within the city of Sacramento. What do we have to sell? We have excellent quality of life, we have a diverse community, but we want to bring that workforce here, and I think that's how we can approach kind of bringing in new industries here to the city.
Thank you. Edgar?
I mentioned something before about jobs, and to talk about in 1 minute all the things that we can do will be not enough. But I can mention the retention of the business, and to the expansion of this business is a priority in my agenda. Obviously, the formation of new business, obviously training. As I mentioned before, I have 6 initiatives to do this. The first one is expand local business. The second one is the formation of a new business. The third one is attract outside business and resources. And the fourth one is to plug the leaks that we have in our economy. It's a lot of money that is going out there outside the city. We need to start buying locally. We need to be united in this. Instead to go outside to another cities, we need to start buying here in the city of Sacramento. That I think is one important thing that we can start with it. Thank you.
Thank you. We actually have time for 2 more questions, panelists. So, Melissa, if you would please direct the next question to Jonathan first.
Jonathan, thank you. The landscape of redevelopment has most definitely changed throughout the state of California, and I want to know, is there life after the death of redevelopment for Sacramento?
Yeah, very good question. So for people in the public, when they think of redevelopment, they hear that the state's eliminated it, and that's not necessarily so. So redevelopment means essentially reinvesting in your neighborhoods, and there'll still be federal government support through community development block grants to do that. So in a lot of other states in the United States, that continues, and we don't have the tax increment base, which is what has been eliminated here within the state of California, and redevelopment agencies to spend those dollars. So those dollars didn't go away. They will be reinvested in communities other ways. School services, property taxes will come back to local government for investment. But then it's the responsibility now of those local governments to decide how those resources are used and what's the best way to do that. So is redevelopment in the name gone? No, it's just taking a different form, and it's just being smarter with our dollars, reinvesting and targeting where we need to target those dollars, using our federal redevelopment dollars in the best way we can, and hiring professional staff who are experts at doing that.
Thank you. Edgar?
Could you repeat the question?
I'm wondering if you feel that there is life after the death of redevelopment in Sacramento.
Well, I've seen leaders outside in the community working hard for redevelopment. It's a shame we're missing this little part, but it's new ways to improve this, as Jonathan mentioned. The truth is that they call something smart redevelopment, and city planners know about that. So we need to follow that guidelines in order to build faster and cut bureaucracy. I believe Senator Steinberg is proposing a bill to create a fund to bring money to close that gap. I don't have the number of the bill, but I mean, the city is working. And when I say the city, I refer to the people outside the city council, and to try to close that gaps. Thank you.
Thank you. Leonard?
Well, I was asked the same question the other day, and I thought about it, and it seems to me that redevelopment has always been a source of funding for individuals. The funding comes from the taxpayers. They divert it to certain individuals. If you're in the know, you partake. If you're not, you don't. Now, the city has plenty of employees across the street to take care of these programs. And as Jonathan has said, I think they just merely eliminated some jobs. There were probably duplication of what we have over in City Hall anyhow. They've got economic development department over there. They're going to be handling the money. It's still going to be going out there. What you need is the ideas. And if you don't have good ideas, it doesn't matter how much money you throw at it. It's going to be a waste.
Thank you. And the final question, Foon, if you would direct it first to Edgar.
Sure, thank you. So one basic service that residents care a lot about is garbage collection. The city is working on a proposed change where recycling pickup would be reduced. Everyone would get yard waste containers, and the claw would be limited to the fall leaf season. Do you agree with that change? And if not, what would you do differently?
Well, in this one, I have no escape, right? Nobody likes garbage, though. So, but I don't agree on the way it's handled right now. I don't think it's a good idea. We have beautiful trees out there that you need to cut branches very often, and it's very hard to get rid of that stuff. We need to look into a little more, and about cost. I don't know, I think that it's more expensive now the way it's with the little containers than the claw out there picking up the stuff like before. Some people doesn't like it how it looks in the streets, but I mean, in this moment of crisis, we maybe save money and we go to the old ways for a moment. Thank you.
Thank you. Leonard?
I remember when I came to Sacramento in '63, the big to-do was garbage and the pickup of garbage, the pickup of leaves. And at that time, it was a situation where how do you do it, how do you do more, and how do you do it for less money? We fast forward now to 48 years later, and we're basically talking the same situation. It's not that Sacramento has grown so large that we have that much more. It's just that it's one of the expenses that is noticeable. And these problems don't create themselves overnight. If you don't pay attention to these problems for 3 or 4 years, then all of a sudden you have to confront them, and there they are. So when you take the attention of the city and its people that work over there and put it on, let's say, building an arena for 3 years, well, there's other things that get ignored, and then all of a sudden you have this big crisis. But I do know that we should have enough people there that know how to solve this problem to get it done. It's just a matter of prioritizing.
Thank you. Jonathan?
I've been asked this question out in the neighborhoods and at mayoral forums that seem to be non-existent to our current mayor, but they actually happen out in the community, and we get asked these questions. And my answer to this question was that the voters have spoken to this. The voters have spoken to this. This is the city of trees. It is what Sacramento is. And a lot of us, I do, my parents do, my sister do, we live in 3 completely different areas of the city of Sacramento, and we have a lot of green waste. We have big yards, we have lots of trees. And so a container just doesn't work for certain people, which is why sometimes it was optional and other times certain days of the week. I mean, what I get out in public is people are confused. They don't understand if the city is actually going to be saving money with this plan. And didn't the voters already speak to this? So it tells me that we actually have to make a case. We have to have a successful plan that will deal with what we need to deal with. And finally, that has to go to the voters, because when the voters have made a choice on something, we owe it to them to give them a realistic plan and give them a say as to what their city services should be.
Thank you. That concludes the question and answer portion of today's forum. We now move to closing statements. The first one, Leonard Padilla.
I'm asking you for your vote because I think it's a very important time in the city of Sacramento's life. I tell a story about Tombstone, Arizona, where a crooked sheriff had a bunch of buddies, the Ike Clanton gang, and they were getting away with everything. And the people just didn't know what to do. And one day they decided, well, let's just bring in a new marshal, Wyatt Earp, and get rid of the gangsters, get rid of these rustlers, and make a clean sweep and start all over again. They knew what they had, they didn't like it, it wasn't doing them any good, so finally they said, okay, let's just get rid of them. And that was the genesis of the gunfight at the OK Corral. Now, that is a very dramatic way of getting rid of a government you don't like, that's not responsible to the people. But I believe that somewhere between there and electing me as the new mayor of Sacramento and getting some priorities realigned is the way to go. I plan on bringing in Heather Fargo as a city manager. I plan on unifying the city and the county law enforcement agencies and possibly even the fire department agencies. Why? To cut down on the overhead at the top.
Thank you. Jonathan Ruers.
Thank you very much. I'm asking the city of Sacramento for their vote on June 5th. Reason number one is I don't need on-the-job training to be the mayor of the city of Sacramento. Over the past 3 years, I've been the chair of your Parks and Recreation Commission, and we have fought hard to keep your swimming pools open. We raised $1 million this year to keep them open at least another year. We work on park maintenance every day, and we're trying to figure out ways to pay for that on your behalf. And we've come up with unique ways to keep our community centers open in the face of huge budget reductions. I have experience in transportation, public land development, parks and recreation, city budget and finance, and I have a public record in this city of actually moving through red tape and getting things done. I'm walking the streets of the city of Sacramento with a plan, 1 page, to explain to the public how we can deal with the issues that we need to take care of in this city, what we can do to move it forward in the next 10 years. Leonard and I actually do go out and talk to people. So despite what you might hear, I'm asking for your vote on June 5th, and I think it's time that we have a new mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. And our write-in candidate who has qualified for the ballot Edgar Hilbert Garcia.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for watching this. I think that it's important that you know your options. I'm going to ask you to vote for me. I'm going to ask you to write my name because I'm a great candidate. However, I believe that the options that are here today, Mr. Padilla, Jonathan, and myself, we take the time to be with you because everybody is important. Whatever choice you do is for the better of the city. And I believe that any one of the three of here sitting will be a better option. Saying that, and 15 seconds left, I just remember something from Matthew 17:5 that says that a good tree always bear a good fruit, and a bad tree always bear a bad fruit. So be wise and choose a good tree. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to thank all of our candidates with us here today. And if we can have the cameras just view them one more time for the viewers at home. We have Leonard Padilla, Jonathan Ruers, and Edgar Hilbert Garcia. Thank you for joining us, and also our panelists from today who are actually giving their time almost all day today for the various forums. We thank you. Foon Rhee from the Sacramento Bee, Cosmo Garvin from News and Review, Pia Lopez from the Sacramento Bee, and Melissa Corker from the Sacramento Press and online publication. I also would like to thank the many volunteers who have worked to make this forum possible today. There are 2 websites voters can check for more information for the June 5th primary election. They are smartvoter.org and the LWV Sacramento.org website. This forum and other candidates forums and proposition forums will be rebroadcast by Metro Cable Channel 14. Please visit www.sacmetrocable.tv for that schedule. On behalf of the League of Women Voters and the Sacramento Metropolitan Cable Commission, I thank the candidates and the panelists for participating in today's forum. This forum has been designed to impart information to you, the voter, in accordance with our belief that a democratic government depends on the informed and active participation of its citizens. We hope that the insights that you have gained today in watching this forum will help you understand the issues and the views of the candidates in order to cast an informed ballot on June 5th. The League of Women Voters is where hands-on work to safeguard democracy leads to true civic improvement. Please remember to vote on June 5th and help make our democracy work. Thank you.